My life has changed a lot during different times in my life, and during different times in my life I have also had different amount of mental clarity. And in this video I'm going to tell you about different things I have noticed affect your mental clarity. And if you got any other tips, please let me know in the comments below so we can learn from each other. Hey, I'm Ronja from CCM, where our mission is to help people to a better life mentally and emotionally. One thing that I have really noticed is that when I have things happening all the time and my brain is distracted all the time, or not distracted, but I use it all the time. I watch Netflix, I watch YouTube, I do things all the time, I play games. My brain doesn't really have a time where it breathes. I feel like that really affects my mental clarity, and it's also not just changing my mental clarity, it also changes my perspective of time, because it feels a bit like time goes a lot faster when stuff's happening all the time, and in that all my thoughts is starting to rambling. But if I start to slow down, taking time to do things that is less stressful for my brain and doing things for just slowing down, I get more mental clarity, and it's like the thoughts in my head are more spot on and not as much around the subject or different things over and over. And when the thoughts are more spot on, they doesn't affect my emotions so much also, because then if my head is more this thought, one of those thoughts might have a memory in it that my emotion doesn't feel as good. But when it's more spot on, those negative emotions doesn't come up either. I write down things that I really need to remember, because if something is something that I really need to remember, it goes on and on in my head over and over again. But if I have wrote it down, I don't have to have it over and over again. And if it's something a bit smaller that doesn't really care if it will happen or not, if I will do it or not, I don't really take the time to write it down, because if I would forget, doesn't really matter. So my head doesn't need to remember it either. So writing down things to not having in my head does also help me a lot. And sometimes I start to write in the start of the day, just to write out thoughts that comes up in my head. Most of the time now when I wake up, it's like a clean slate. But when it isn't, I start to write down it so it doesn't need to be in my head. And one other thing that actually goes a lot into those other things is being more now, being more present. Because when I am in this moment, thoughts and feelings from past, or thoughts and feelings about the future doesn't come up. And you can enjoy the moment you have here and now a lot more than thinking about everything else. And when you are more in the now, you are automatically slowing down. The way of living or the way of doing things is more about not having so much stuff in your head. And by not having as much stuff in your head, you gain mental clarity, which is something that we all want. Because when we have mental clarity, we can be more focused, but we can also be more present, and we will also be a lot more happier in life.